Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
He's absolutely Jason, he's absolutely gay. He'll absolutely brighten up the darkest rainy day. He's funny and loves movies, he's smart and he's a Jew. He's an actor and an activist and wants to hear from you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Absolutely Jason Stuart with my guest here, Emmy winner, comedian, writer, actor, Bruce Vilanch.
A Latin dance sensation. I'm boogieing around the room. I have castanets at my side.
I have to say, and I'll get this out of the way just in the beginning, Bruce was the first openly gay person I ever met in show business.
God, that is scary.
It was at a meeting called AGA, and you changed my life. You really did, because I've told you this before, but just to let people know that having somebody who is a mentor of sorts to you, who shows you the way through his practice, can change your life, and it really did for me, and thank you very much. And when my special was on Here TV, my hour comedy special, he presented it, and he was just so terrific, and he very rarely says no. And I cannot believe it. I think that's absolutely you're just the best.
Wow, thank you. I said no to Nancy Reagan.
Did you? Did she want you to do her hair? Or maybe?
Somebody had to.
Yeah, fix that helmet.
Everybody died, so somebody else had to.
So the first thing I want to ask, and this is what I love about this show, because I can ask questions that I've always been a little embarrassed to ask in person. Where did the T-shirt thing come from?
Well, you know, when you have tits like these, you have to show them off. It's as simple as that. It came from a deep rebellion against my mother, who's fastidious. And I was a fat kid, and she always wanted me to dress, you know, like Cary Grant.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard to find stuff. I mean, when you were a fat kid, you can't even tie a tie. I mean, it's uncomfortable around your neck, and if it hangs down, you know, you just look like some courtroom lawyer from an old movie. So I was never comfortable in real clothing, and I became a hippie when that was fashionable, and hippies, you know, got to wear muumuus and loose-fitting things. Or, well, you could wear bell-bottoms. That was the only tight things you could wear.
I looked at all the pictures and researching you, and my God, there was a lot of crazy outfits.
Yeah.
I missed the beard, I have to say. I sort of liked it.
You know, I loved it, too. I mean, I had it for 32 years. I grew it for a movie, and I shaved it for a Broadway show.
What movie was the movie?
It was a picture called, Excuse Me, My Name is Rocco Papaleo, an Italian picture, Permette Rocco Papaleo, which later got released as Rocco in Chicago. It has the distinction of being the only Marcello Mastroianni movie to flop in Italy.
Oh my God!
This is a big thing because he was Mr. Italy, and it was a picture they shot in Chicago, and I was in Chicago writing for the Chicago Tribune and acting on the side, and the director saw me in a restaurant and came over and said, "I like a your face. I want to shoot your face."
So you were like Lucy in that episode.
You're right, exactly.
Like they came over to you,
Exactly.
an Italian director came in, "I want you."
My first thought was, this is somebody is punking me. They're doing I Love Lucy here at Ricardo's in Chicago.
Exactly.
But no, he was Ettore Scola, and it was his first feature, and he then became a very successful director.
What's his big claim to fame?
I can't remember the name of the movie.
Please.
But he did a bunch of, they were all Italian art house movies. I mean, he never crossed over and had a hit.
Please, but Marcello Mastroianni, I mean, God, to just have been in a movie with him.
Marcello, but it was
Marcello,
heaven.
rather, yeah.
He came to Chicago. Lauren Hutton was the girl.
Oh, my God.
And he's pursuing her through Chicago.
Famous model. I tend to say things to people because some of the people
out here are so
too young.
And Virginia Slim's girl, and that was what she played in the movie, the Virginia Slim's girl.
Oh, my God.
And I was he was a coal miner who had come over with a bunch of Italians to work the mines in Canada, and their boxer, their hero, is in Chicago fighting for a title, and they all come down in a bus from the mine in Ontario, and they are in Chicago, and he gets lost and stumbles into my bar. And my bar is where, like, a Skid Row bar where ex-fighters go.
Nothing that you had any connection to whatsoever.
But here's the Italian part. I was playing this butch queen bartender. I was a big queen who had been, in his youth, a prize fighter.
Oh, my God.
And I was only like 30 years old when I did it, you know. So, I mean, my youth was not that far removed from it.
No.
But they put coils in my nose to flatten it so I looked like a pug. It was a very strange character. And we shot the whole thing in translation, which means nobody spoke. You spoke whatever language you liked. There was a script, and you looked at the script, and you either did it in English or Italian or whatever gibberish you wanted to say, because everybody was dubbed. So we would do the numbers, which is you'd look at somebody earnestly and go 45, 62, 81, 97, 35, 32. And that would be dubbed into whatever language it was going to be dubbed
Dear
into.
God.
Yeah.
That didn't happen on Mahogany, though.
No, that was also shot in Chicago. My Chicago film career.
Yeah, well,
boy.
Mahogany was one of the most successful Diana Ross films. She did it right after Lady Sings the Blues.
That's true.
It was her and the repairing of her and Billy D.
Williams.
And Nina Foch, my acting coach.
That's right.
Played. Go ahead.
Well, Nina
Foch, nobody knows who she is here. Nina Foch was nominated for an Oscar in the 50s for a movie called Executive Suite.
She was wonderful in that.
And she was this grande dame.
Yeah.
Who wore pearls and had a bun, and every time she's
in the Ten Commandments, and people remember that because they see it. She's Moses' mother, Miriam, and she puts the basket in the Nile,
ocean.
All that. But yes, she was a very glamorous actress, and then she got to play those kinds of tight.
What was the
parts.
movie in Paris with Gene Kelly? She played
An American in Paris.
American in Paris.
Oh, that's right.
She
American
played the fairy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, which was started in Chicago, she played the woman at Marshall Field, the big department store, which is now Macy's,
where Diana Ross worked.
Where Diana Ross was working, and then Diana Ross was discovered, like I was discovered in Chicago by an Italian. And
exactly.
Only it's Anthony Perkins, who's the photographer.
Who's a bisexual.
Bisexual. He'll bisex, is what it basically meant. And he takes her to Rome, and she becomes this hugely successful model called Mahogany.
She's a piece of wood.
Right, and a piece of wood. And as I was... Tony Richardson was directing the picture, and he was a genius.
Was he?
Yeah.
Wasn't it Billy?
Well, no. What happened was Tony was directing the movie originally, and they fired him.
And Barry Gordy.
They fired him the day I arrived on the set.
Oh my God! Tony Richardson. Let everybody know, another bisexual man,
Sir Tony Richardson,
who was married to Vanessa Redgrave,
right, and the father of Natasha Richardson and Jolie Richardson.
Exactly.
And
so
won an Oscar for directing a picture called Tom Jones, which was in 1964, but directed a lot of big British movies,
and also some American ones too. Yeah.
And
Hotel New Hampshire.
That's right. That was, I think, the last one, the loved one.
Yeah. He was part of that whole
Taste of Honey,
that whole nouveau kind of thing that came in the 60s and 70s,
British New Wave thing.
And bisexual in real life.
Yes, and he so he was directing the movie, which was originally had been written for Liza Minnelli. And
as a model?
As a model. It was a Susan Hayward movie. I mean,
of course.
But it was written for Liza as a quirky model who would be discovered. And, of course, the whole thing was... She was a girl from, Queens, and the whole thing was rewritten for Diana Ross. But Tony was directing it, and he was under the impression he was making a Tony Richardson picture, when, in fact, he was doing a Diana Ross picture. And she could never understand what he was saying. Nobody could. I mean, he had. And you had no. And she would say, "What is he saying? Do you know what he is saying?"
I just got nominated for an Oscar.
Right. She had. So Barry Gordy fired him and took over the reins, and it was he directed the.
And it was a major hit.
It was a big hit.
So he understood the kind of movie.
And he made the kind of movie that they wanted to make, and Tony was going to do something else. But they, so Barry took over, and everything got scrapped, and I came back the next day, and we shot this one scene that he decided would remain in the movie, because his vision was get her out of Chicago as fast as possible, because Chicago would be ugly, and we're going to move her to Rome. So, okay, it's fine. That meant my character did not do what my character had done originally, which was actually have some scenes with Nina, because I worked for Nina in that all got cut out. And we just had the one scene that we wrote ourselves, and that we didn't have time to learn, and so it was written on a piece of wrapping paper in front of us. And
you have brown hair in the movie, don't you?
Yeah, we're both looking at the table like there's something fascinating on the table. Well, there is. It's the script. We're both looking over to see what's the next line, and we had to shoot it in a nanosecond.
Oh my God!
I had
your first big studio picture.
Yes, my God! I did have dark. I was always blonde, but as I got older, it became dirty blonde, and then it got kind of brown, and then I was out here and I did a picture called The Morning After.
Oh, Jane Fonda. Jeff Bridges. And Raul Julia, who God bless him, who people know him play Gomez in the Addams Family.
That's right.
I just loved him. That's Sidney Lumet film too.
Sidney Lumet, the only picture he ever made in Hollywood. And when I went to
was a really good movie,
when I went
too.
to audition for it, he said, "Would you mind going blonde? I want everybody in this picture blonde, because this is L.A. and everybody here is blonde." And so I said, "Which way is the bottle?" And they sent me, to a hair burner. I think.
Did you play the manager of the apartment building?
No, that was Gypsy.
Okay, so
That was Gypsy.
You wore
that
a
was James
bathrobe.
Haig.
No?
I was a bartender at the 4-Star
Okay.
on Santa Monica Boulevard,
Oh
which
my
is now
God.
something else. It's now
Oh my God.
Trunks, I think.
That used to be a gay bar.
Or
It still is.
It still is a gay bar. I think it's Trunks or Mickey's, but
I think it's Trunks.
It's Trunks.
Because
Yeah.
Mickey's wasn't there.
Right, and true. And so she comes, she wakes up on Thanksgiving morning with a stiff in bed, and she doesn't know if she killed him or not because she's an alcoholic, and anything could have happened.
What was Jane Fonda like?
Fabulous, but she still is fabulous. The greatest thing about Jane's greatest performance is convincing the world that she is Jane Fonda, that she is this incredibly together, compartmentalized force, and that she is fearless and marches boldly forward, and when in fact she is a bowl of Jello. I mean, she's nervous and not so much now, because now she's of an age where she partially doesn't give a rat's ass anymore, and also she knows who she is. But then, even then, she was nervous and insecure and
Well, she
crazy.
says something that she stopped doing acting for 15 years because of that. It made her
Yeah.
she loved it, but it made her so crazy.
Made her crazy, and she would turn herself over to men, who would guide her, and
Well, that was the generation
move
of
her
women who
around.
did that.
Yeah,
That's what they all did that. They were taught, they were brought up to do it.
But my favorite moment with Jane was Sidney Lumet had a way of working where he would storyboard everything, and then he would only shoot what he needed. And when you were doing the scene, you would realize what he was doing. You could feel the cut. You could, but just by what he was shooting, he would say, "No, I don't need you. I don't need your reaction to that. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that." And then you could feel it cutting together, and so you knew he was getting everything. And of course, when other directors will shoot everything and then choose later,
Right.
and he would just shoot what he needed.
Because it came from TV is
right.
why.
And so Jane kept saying to me, "He's not getting any coverage. He's not getting any coverage because he's moving along. He's moving so fast." And I said, "But don't you feel it? It's exactly going. You know how it's going to look because you." Can,
And then she gets an
you
Oscar
can- and then she
nomination.
gets Anyway, so when the thing was over, we shot it in a month. I mean, and we were like 2 weeks ahead of schedule because he's so fast. And we had the wrap party, and she came over to me and she said, "This is the first picture I've ever done where I didn't get my period."
And on that note, we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back with Emmy winner Bruce Vilanch. Show that picture of the Emmy as we go out. We're here with Emmy winner Bruce Vilanch. We're going to talk about his writing career and more. Please stay with us on Absolutely Jason Stewart.
Hey, I'm Dean Cain, and you are watching T Radio V. I'm watching it too. Right now. Seriously.
Hey geeks, wake up! We got big news. I'm not gonna mumble this time. Geekscape, the long-running movie video game. Let me do one more. Hey geeks, we got big news! Geekscape, your favorite show about movies, video games, comics, and TV, is coming to T Radio V Monday, October 6th. And it'll be on every Monday from then on, 7 p.m. Until the apocalypse happens, we're all eaten by zombies.
Hello, I am food and travel guru Mark DiCarlo,
And I'm Yenny Alvarez, a traveling diva.
and we're doing a new show right here on T Radio V called A Fork on the Road. I've been to over 500 cities in America and elsewhere, and I know where to stay, what to eat, and what to do for fun when you're there, and so does she, because
Yeah,
she's the
she
traveling
does.
diva.
Yeah, traveling diva, not traveling hobo.
Right, what's the first thing people ask you every time you come back from a trip?
Food. What'd you eat?
What'd you eat? Was it good? Was it bad? Where'd you stay? How much did you spend? We have all the answers because we know people everywhere.
All the information.
Every
deals.
week we'll be interviewing a different chef, a different celebrity, a different musician, people that travel for a living and who know all the back
Authentic
roads.
travel, authentic food, great places to go. Festivals. I love festivals.
We
That's so
love
fun.
festivals.
So every Tuesday at 4.
And we're going to be bringing it all to you each week, like she said,
Tuesdays
Tuesdays
at
at
4.
4. So for food, fun and travel, you come right back here to us. Mark DiCarlo.
And I'm Jenny Alvarez.
And we'll see you
on A Fork on the Road.
I'm Zoe Williams.
And I'm Dr. Mark Goulston.
I'm Jeff Brown.
And we make up the Zoe What Morning Show. You can find us here on TRadiov.com every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I make you think.
He makes you laugh, and if I get a chance, I'll help you change.
Or make you cry with his attempts at humor.
Radio in TV.
Can you relate? We'll make it happen.
Look at Jeff. What you doing?
Were you mumbling to yourself?
Hey, back there mumbling.
To them. To them.
Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
And we're back. Absolutely Jason Stewart with my guest, Emmy winner, comedian, actor, writer, Bruce Vilanch. So what is the Emmy experience? What is it like to win an Emmy? I mean, that must be just... You've won 3 or 2?
Well, 2 when I was there, I mean, as a writer, and then there were 4 others that I was like a producer person on the show, and I got one, but I didn't get to run up the aisle.
So you ran up the aisle for 2?
Yeah, I ran up the aisle for 2. Well, actually, one of them, I was writing the Emmy show that night. I was in the wings. I was standing, I remember, with Kirstie Alley, who was hosting it. It was Kirstie Alley, Tim Allen...
I remember that time.
It was a Foxy. It was the comedy. It was all going to be comedy. Tim Allen. There were.
He was not very funny on that show.
No, he hates it. He doesn't like industry crowds.
Yeah, he just couldn't do it.
Industry doesn't like me, and I don't like them. And
if he would have played Fish Out of Water, he would have done well.
But Kirstie was funny. Anyway, so I'm standing in the wings with Kirstie, and they come to our category, and I think I forget who gave it to us that year.
That's funny.
But so I had to take off my credential and sweep out on stage. The year before, Jerry Seinfeld was presenting it, and it was in Pasadena, and I brought Charlotte Crossley, who was one of the Harlettes, the world's oldest living Harlette, and was in Hairspray with me. And she's brilliant, and she was my date, and we had the best time. We just had the best time, and we were having such a good time that it didn't matter. It really...
Yeah, but come on.
I wanted to win because I had been nominated a couple of times before and lost. And so, when that happens...
Well, then you die, they say, Emmy winner, Bruce Vilanch.
Dinner party of one. Yeah, I know. It's true.
It's sort of nice.
True. Yeah.
For me, they say glitter nominee.
Listen,
glitter award nominee.
Bette Midler and I, who I've been writing with for 42 years, which is difficult because she's only 36. But we have a standing thing like when she dies, it'll say Bette Midler, singer-started career in bathhouse. That'll be it. There's no escaping. So there are certain things
I think people are starting to forget about it, honestly. A little bit.
But when they do the big summary at the end. Well, fortunately, you're not around to see
so tell us,
how they treat you.
This is it. Bette Midler, God, you started with her in Chicago. I know the whole story.
Okay.
You met her in Chicago when you were a writer. She just fell in love with you, and you've been writing her stuff.
Been writing with her
until Vegas, until she stopped.
Till Vegas, and we're doing some stuff now. She has an album coming out, and so she's going to be doing a bunch of TV appearances and a special in London.
Oh, she is going to do a special.
It's a special about the album, and so but she's going to be interviewed and perform and all of that.
How wonderful!
On ITV.
Is it going to be? Is ITV?
ITV.
That's
the one that isn't the BBC. BBC is the.
So they'll probably bring it here and sell it to something.
They
probably
do
VH1 or
hopefully.
Something.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
The album seems great. Let's give it a plug. It's
the girls.
Girl groups.
It's girl groups. Mark Shaman produced it, and it's girl groups of many decades and many different styles. I mean, it goes from what you would expect from Bette if you're an old fan, sort of Andrews Sisters and girl group covers, from the Ronettes, the Cordettes, all of that, up to a very, very moving cover of Waterfalls, which really emphasizes the lyric in a way that you haven't heard it before. And the favorite kind of stuff that she does for me is she'll take something that was junk music, that was something that was disposable when I was a kid, and she'll transform it. There's a song called "Come and Get These Memories" with Martha and the Vandellas, recorded in the '60s, and they and it's I always thought it was a gorgeous song, but it was it was a rock and roll R&B.
It's like Streisand did with Happy Days Are Here Again. When they slowed it down,
it's that,
when you slow it down,
that
it gives it a completely
slow
different
it down
meaning.
and you examine the lyric, and it's transformative. So and that's what I love, and it's got some of that on it. So
I mean, you've worked with
it covers the bases for people who have been following her.
You've been working with everyone from her. Her and Barbara know each other, right? And they just recorded recently a duet that I guess is going to go on the second duet album or partners album that Streisand is supposed to do. What happened?
Could be, yeah, I don't know.
I would think there's a little bit of sibling rivalry between the two gals. Do you think so or no?
No, I don't know.
Are they friends?
They're friends. They're not. They don't hang out, but they've been friends over the years. I mean, Barbara came to see Bet when she did the one-woman play about Sue Mengers, who was Barbara's agent, and of course, the whole play is about Barbara firing Sue Mengers.
And how did she feel about it?
She said she liked it. She came back. She said, "You were very funny. It's not all true." Of course, with Barbara, it's always about this is the real thing. And so she then proceeds to give you her version of the real thing.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Because that was apparently Sue's version. Sue Mengers, for everyone at home, was a famous Hollywood agent, the first big woman mega agent. And Bette Midler did a show, which I just, honestly, I saw it and I thought, God, this is way too short.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to have seen everything else around it.
You want the dinner party to happen on stage.
Oh, are you kidding?
People coming on this Paul Newman.
Oh, yes. I think her life is a great movie.
Sue's life, yeah.
Yeah, much more than these events. I mean, I think it's really a powerful story of an immigrant coming to this country and a woman. And I mean, it's a really great story for anybody to do, I think. Yeah.
Well, she's been a character in a dozen movies.
Yeah, Diane Cannon in The Last of Sheila.
And Bette sort of played a version of her in the remake of The Women. And somebody else did a Sue character. I'm trying to remember.
But you've written for Barbara too, right?
I have written for Barbara.
Which?
They were all freebies. There were benefits, various things of benefits.
And you've talked about that and not been happy about it.
I have to. Well, we had.
Did she ever say anything to you about it?
Well, she stopped speaking to me. She said I made it up, and then she discovered that I hadn't made it up, and so she sort of, she made an overture through her manager to And that's bad, but I mean, it's not like we hung out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think that's sort of cool that somebody is so completely out of it. But actually, people don't realize that just because they're famous, they're people too, and they go, oh, maybe that is true. Yeah. And the idea that she did that's sort of cool. So we got a scoop right here on Absolute Jason Stewart.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So tell us. So I want to go through some of the people that you work with. Now, Whoopi, to me, basically changed your life in one respect.
Well,
Whoopi Goldberg.
She got me on Hollywood Squares,
which made you basically a writer and a bit player actor. Into like me, you know what I mean. You were doing acting,
certainly,
playing.
Well, you're on television every night, and people know who you are.
And just doing parts of movies and writing isn't the same thing as being, like you said, being on TV.
It's you're on TV every night and you become famous, but so is the doctor who has Ebola. He's famous
right now. This was the
'90s.
He's on
it was
TV
so
every
different.
night. This was the '90s, right?
So I mean, television fame is that weird kind of thing. It embraces all sorts of people, and but when you're hot, when you're on the thing, and they're seeing you every night, everybody knows who you are. And the moment that stops, they don't know. They no longer. They go, what happened to you?
Right.
Who are you again? And
Rachel Drath talks about that in her book.
Yeah,
it's a great book.
My kind of that kind of. The kind of fame that I have now is I'll go through an airport and there'll be people around me wanting selfies, and there'll be other people wandering by going, "Who's that?" I mean, that doesn't happen to Brad Pitt. Let me say that.
Yeah, but that's not you. I think that's now. I think if you would have been on Hollywood Squares now, you would not have the same response.
Of course not.
Because in 20 years ago, it was like, oh my God, everybody was watching that show.
Well,
that was the end of that era. That everybody, the amount of people watching one show at one time was so much bigger than it is now.
Yeah.
I think so. I think yeah.
To a degree, but there's, big is big. What can I tell you? If you have a hit show on a network, you are known
Two Broke Girls is a
overnight.
hit show. My mother wouldn't know who the two girls were.
That's true.
What's
they haven't established themselves beyond that show.
Exactly. Well, you didn't have to in those days, is what I'm saying. You could just be on one thing and you would be it. And I think I think without Hollywood Squares, you probably wouldn't have gotten Hairspray. because that made you. It's the same audience,
Yeah.
I would think. And how did Hairspray come about?
Because I was on Hollywood Squares.
Seriously?
No. I had an agent, and he pitched me for it. And
did you want to? Did you talk
Oh, yeah.
about it?
No, it was written by Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who are two good friends of mine. And Mark has just produced Bet's album. We've been working with Bet together since the Jurassic period. And they had written this show, and I went up to Seattle to the tryout. Harvey Fierstein was, playing the role, and I was to support them. And I laughingly said, "Well, I could play this," and everybody laughed because nobody was thinking about anything except getting it to Broadway. And then it got to Broadway, and a year later, they were, putting together the national tour, and because Harvey wasn't leaving, so they said we have to find somebody to do this, and it was a tough part to cast at the beginning because you had to have somebody who could do that, who was willing to do that. And
they had a lot of different people, and some worked better than others, I would guess.
Eventually, I was the first one to do it after Harvey. I mean, Harvey stayed on Broadway, and eventually I replaced him, but he had left, and Michael McKean had come in for a few months. But so I was the first one to actually do it, and
that must have been a dream to be on Broadway.
And so I said, they pitched me. They said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, you'll have to come audition." I went and auditioned, and I auditioned twice. And
what was the thing you auditioned with?
Timeless. You do the number with somebody who's auditioning for Wilbur.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you do a monologue scene, and then Timeless, and I think they figure out from that if you can do it. So the second time, Scott came over and said, "Are you really interested in this? Because they like you." And so I said, "Yeah, I really am interested." And that was that. And I think I would be naive if I didn't know that in the national tour, it would help them to have a television personality.
Oh my God, yes!
Because nobody else in the company was known.
You're funny. You're a good actor. You can sing, and you can move well, and you're famous. I mean, you have all the elements that this needs, which is a lot of stuff.
It's promotable, and I was the only element in the show that was promotable because we didn't. Later on they had other known people get into the parts, but.
I think the one thing, and I don't know if you remember when I came to see you in Hollywood, the one thing that I noticed in the play is that you had such absolute joy playing it.
Oh, it was great.
You looked like you were having the best time ever.
It's an amazing.
And I thought I watched it, and I'd never seen that kind of performance in that way. Because I'd seen, I think, as I remember seeing, Divine played it completely differently.
Well, yeah, it was the movie, and it was Divine.
Yeah, and that's what I'd seen, and I remember thinking, God, this is such an interesting actor choice to do. And it was infectious. It really was. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with my friend Bruce Vilanch here on Absolutely Jason Stewart. We'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, hello, this is David Faustino, and you are watching T Radio V. Do you see what I'm saying? It's television crossed with radio. It's all together. It's weird. Radio's in the middle of it. It's amazing. You're watching it. Go.
Love and marriage, love and marriage.
Yeah, anytime, guys.
Hi, I'm Curtis.
I'm Anthony.
And I'm Wes. And we're the worst show on the web.
Mondays at 9 p.m.
on T Radio V.
Oh, that's nice.
I don't have insurance for that.
Andy D on T Radio V. Bing, bang, bing, boom, right?
Yeah.
Andy D on T Radio V. Bobbity, bibbity, bobbity, boo. Andy D on T Radio V.
The Andy Dick Show, Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. on T Radio V.
Wow!
But we'll do it. We'll do it better when the show actually starts.
Yeah, Hey everybody, Sean Astin here. You may know me from Goonies, Rudy, The Lord of the Rings, but actually my calling is as a political radio show host. So I am proud to announce that I'm bringing my show, Vox Populi Radio, right here to T Radio V, Radio in TV. Thursdays, 12 to 2, live. Did I say that it's live? Live. Call in, tweet in, check in. It's gonna be your show.
Let's Get Digital, Wednesday, 6 p.m. on T Radio V LA.
Crazy Bone would never do this.
I guess it.
T Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
So we're back. Absolutely Jason Stuart here with my guest, Bruce Vilanch. And we were just talking about my kid that I mentor, Paul Elias. I just want you guys to know that my new web series is dropping, as they say, November 5th on Gay Direct.
I just heard it.
That's what they call it, dropping. It's going to be on Gay Direct, which is owned by Out TV and Wolf Home Video, or Home Media, I guess whatever they call it now because it's not a video. And it's 6 episodes. It's sort of Louis C.K. meets Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I directed it, and I wrote it with Paul, and co-wrote it, co-produced it, and acted it. And I'm sort of excited. And if you're in Los Angeles, tonight I am doing the Laugh Factory, hosting the Jason Stewart and Friends show in Hollywood at 10 o'clock, and on Wednesday, 8 p.m. in Long Beach. You should come and do that show sometime if you want. If you want to, you probably don't. You have that look on your face, it's not again. You get a full...
Haven't I done that show? No.
Yes, you have. If you want to work out some stuff. Which I'm sure you're dying to do. Just dying. So you ever work with Lucille Ball?
I did.
I was hoping. I talked to one kid that I was mentoring. The reason this popped in my head, and he did not know who Lucille Ball was.
No,
this is the kid who's 16, who is in the movie Love Is Strange with Me. He plays the Russian kid, and we were talking about comedy. He says he wants to be a comedian. And da, da, da. I said, one of the people you should watch is watch the old Lucy shows. You could see how sitcom was really done. He said he wants to do a sitcom, and he didn't know who she was.
He doesn't get Channel 13.
Apparently not. Not in Philadelphia.
Well, it had to happen sooner or later. I mean, because the show's never been out of circulation. As Lucy Arnaz will cheerfully tell you as she cashes checks, it's never been out of circulation.
Does she still get checks from that?
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I know they sold it for. There's a famous story. They sold it for $1.5 million in the '60s. I think she gets the money for the Lucy show, and
maybe that's
and here's Lucy.
Money off or something. I mean,
certainly off the products, the Lucy matches and the Lucy, iPhone case and
all of the above.
Exactly.
I assume that somewhere down the line, someone's getting something.
Oh God, yeah. What was it? What was your experience with her?
Well, she was a guest on several variety shows that I wrote, and I wrote some stuff for her on that. And then I wrote the last thing she ever did, which was the Oscars with Bob Hope, 1989.
My God. You could see how excited she was to be on that.
She was ill, and she was happy to be asked. Alan Carr had asked the two of them to come out, and unfortunately they had to introduce a terrible production number, which was featuring all the children of Hollywood stars.
Oh, wow.
And it was written by Kander and Ebb, and all about, I don't know, We're the Voice of Tomorrow, something like that. But it was not a great number. And but they had a great time introducing it. And
that's what you remember.
A month later she died. You remember the two of them? Well, because the audience was thrilled that they were there. I mean, Hope hadn't made an appearance on the show in a long time, and I don't think she'd ever been on. I mean, or maybe once a long time
as a
ago.
presenter, yeah.
Yeah. And they were two genuine legends, and they had a great deal of affection engendered between them and by the audience. So it was funny, and I wrote this thing for them, and Hope loved it, and she said, fine. And then she got there. We came to rehearse, and I said, I think on this particular line, maybe we want to change it to, and she said, oh, he's going to say whatever he wants to say, and I'm just going to follow it up. He'll change it all anyway. And, he did. He, ad-libbed a few things as they were out there, and she was laughing it up.
Because he was gifted. They both were.
Well, yeah, and he was having a good time. He felt the crowd.
She was not, but she's not a stand-up.
No.
And she comes from the exact opposite end of comedy that he does.
Yeah.
He's more off the cuff, where she's more rehearsed and more planned and more, she
was always in character,
Very much
I mean, when she wasn't Lucy Ricardo or the variations of Lucy Ricardo, there was no Lucille Ball character that she could come out and say good evening, because she was an actress. I mean, she wasn't that kind of a comedian.
No, not in those days, because people didn't do talk shows that much until probably when she did Joan Rivers' show, and she started to come back on the scene in the 70s. She'd do some talk shows. I was doing some research and looking at some stuff, and boy, she was like crabby and sort of like.
Well, she was crabby and she would drink a lot, you know.
Oh, was that it? Because she was funny in that kind of way.
The famous drunken password episodes where you can find online where she's like so out of it.
That's hysterical.
So out of it. And then Bob Smith has this great story.
Bob Smith, wonderful comedian.
A wonderful comedian. He has a great story that he tells about watching. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and she was the first guest, and Michelle Lee, who was on, I think, Knots Landing at the time, was the second guest, and Lucy was just kind of like, back and forth, and Michelle Lee's telling a story, and it's not funny, and she's going on and on and on, and Lucy Ball leans over to her and says, "You're losing them." In this kind of like horrifying way that even Carson kind of goes, "Well."
That's hysterical.
And Michelle was like,
I love her.
Was mortified, but
great.
But she recovered.
Oh yeah, she's great.
But Lucille had no filter at a certain point, and that was what the drinking did. And then when I first met her, I was a journalist when I met her, and I interviewed her a bunch of times because we always had a good time when I would interview her. And they used to have a junket. The CBS would have a junket. They'd fly all the critics and TV writers.
So for people at home, that means that they rent a hotel room, and the star stands there, and every 5-10 minutes, another journalist comes in either to interview them with a camera or without. Now I think everything is done on camera.
It's all EPG, whatever they call electronic package. This one, I mean, this is the early 70s. They had a brunch at her house.
Oh my gosh!
And like 40 of us descended upon the pool at her house.
On Roxbury Drive?
On Roxbury Drive.
Aren't you impressed that I knew that?
Yeah, it's a stalker thing.
Yeah, it is. I had a friend, Joey Santos, growing up. Do you know Joey? You must know him. Joe Santos' son. He's a chef to the stars now.
And who lived across the street?
From Lucy?
From Lucy.
Okay,
Lucy and Gary went up at the time.
Agnes Moorhead. Down the block, Jimmy Stuart.
That I knew.
Around the corner was Cugat and Charo.
Well, Cugat, they were on the corner of.
Yes.
She's still there.
Is she really?
On Benedict and Lexington.
We don't want to say that.
Oh, but everybody knows it's on maps and.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It's not a surprise. No, Jimmy Stuart, Jack Benny. Lived across the street, and Toady Fields was next door, and then a couple of blocks up was Rosemary Clooney, next door to Ira Gershwin. That was Roxbury Drive.
They all knew each other, which is that's why when you watch those.
Then Robert Stigwood bought a house there.
Oh, did he?
Yes, but then they all began leaving. They got older, and I didn't realize Agnes Moorehead, which sounds like a stage direction, doesn't it? Agnes Moorehead, porno movie. It was one of the. I specialize in names that sound like stage directions.
Never married.
No, that's strange.
Yes,
yes. But I have a picture of her dancing with Cesar Romero. There you have it.
Cough, cough, cough. Anyway, I won't say anything about those two. But
Cesar Butch Romero, as he was called.
Yes. Well,
if I'd only been a bartender.
Allegedly, they were both gay, as Kathy Griffin says. Allegedly, they were both gay.
Allegedly, they're both dead.
Yes.
So now it doesn't matter what you say about them.
And people don't remember
you can't libel them. But I don't think it would be libel to say they were both gay because they were both gay.
Yeah, they were. And she was so talented.
Oh, she was genius.
Oh, God, just brilliant.
Genius.
And she actually got a nomination for Hush
Hush. For Hush Hush, she certainly did.
And she got a couple other nominations in the 40s. And
Mink Stoll, Orson Welles movies.
Yeah, Mink Stoll is going to play her character in the movie that I'm doing.
That's pretty funny because there's a certain resemblance.
Very much so.
With Mink. If she put her in a red wig, and you would go, Agnes Moorehead.
So I can't do this without doing this. So you knew Joan Rivers, of course.
Sure.
I worked with her a couple times, and she was just
She was good. I mean, I knew her for another 40 years.
Everybody says too soon for 81. That's the thing about her.
Well, because it was a huge shock because she was on her game. You know, she was working, and she was. I mean, this procedure was so minor that she was booked the next night in Red Bank, New Jersey, to do her act. So obviously there was no recovery time involved in this procedure. So it was a genuine shock. And you know, she would you knew she would work until the end. I mean, she wasn't going to. She'd keep the lights on until the very end. So it was that. In that case, it really is too soon because
I think so.
And she was, she'd hit a certain kind of stride. I mean, I do have to say that she was doing the Anne Frank jokes now. I mean, it was like, how can I shock them? Because she realized some years ago that the way to keep a younger audience is to shake them up.
And stay in the press, yeah.
And that keeps you current. It's true. And she wanted to be current. She was not interested in just playing to. My mother's friends in Jersey from the country club went to see her a couple of years ago.
Oh my God!
At the Jersey the Performing Arts Center in Englewood, and I happened to be there, and the next day I said, "Don't you write for Joan Rivers?" And I said, "Yes." So we went to see her last night. She's filthy. When did she get that mouth? My God, she never was like that. I mean, but everything, F this and F that and shit this and shit. I mean, yeah, and they were like enraged because they'd gone to see the Joan Rivers, who made jokes about Jews with diamonds and husbands and and all that, and this was a whole other.
I think
kind of thing.
I love her, but I think that you would have loved her anyway. Myself, I don't know if you had to do that. Maybe I'm old school.
No, I mean her more recent stuff was I was hilarious, but I did think it was like. She didn't know where to go to outrage people, so she was now into the Holocaust. She'd gone into the forbidden zone.
And vagina, that whole thing on My Vagina's So Dry on the Letterman show was just dear God.
Well, it's hysterical, but she went literal in a way that she...
Not Letterman, Tonight Show.
That she wouldn't have
That
done,
was lovely that she got
before.
to be... He did a lovely thing. I thought that was sort of terrible. That somebody would not put somebody on a show because they got their own. That whole thing, just to me, is just the ugliness of this business.
There's a certain kind of personality that feels that you can't disagree with me. If you disagree with me, you betray me. If you don't do what I want for you, you have betrayed me. And it's a controlling thing. And a lot of these people don't get to where they are because they're not controlling.
Right. Definitely so. And you've been backstage and watched all that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, as it unfolds and now everybody's dead, we now hear it was maybe about a phone call that she never made to tell him she was doing it.
I had a friend that worked with her at the time, and basically she told him the day before the press conference when she knew that the contract was signed, and it was her paranoia thinking that this might not go through. And obviously she had the foresight to know that whatever was going on with that show, there was some drama going on because eventually, 9 months later, it was a high-rated show that got canceled. It didn't make any sense. The show was a hit, and it got canceled.
Actually, it wasn't.
See, I heard that it was.
No, it wasn't. It never delivered the numbers that...
Yeah, but for a first-time thing, it was quite popular.
But here's how it works. You sell the show to advertisers based on a projection of what you are going to deliver in terms of audience.
Exactly, and they didn't
When you don't
it.
deliver it, you have to pay back the money that they gave you because you're not delivering up to the contract. And this was not how Fox Broadcasting wanted to start their career.
But I think if they would have stayed with it, it would have been a hit.
Well,
but they don't do that anymore.
That's another, if somebody had read the ICE report, they wouldn't have sunk the Titanic. I mean, what does that matter?
I guess it does. Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right.
Right.
Well, on that lovely note, we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with Bruce Vilanch and more talk about the Titanic. We'll be back in just a moment on Absolutely Jason Stewart.
Hi, this is Danny Woodburn, and you're watching T Radio V. Did it come up? Is it all right? There we go. He's good.
Hey everybody, Sean Astin here. You may know me from Goonies, Rudy, The Lord of the Rings, but actually my calling is as a political radio show host. So I am proud to announce that I'm bringing my show, Vox Populi Radio, right here to T Radio V, Radio in TV. Thursdays, 12 to 2, live. Did I say that it's live? Live. Call in, tweet in, check in. It's going to be your show.
I'm Louis Lombardi. And I'm James Gutierrez. Bringing you Celebrity Bookie every Thursday starting September 4th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time.
Every NFL game picked by this man right here.
Yep, gonna make you rich.
And fantasy stuff by me.
Fantasy stuff by him.
Fantasy football stuff.
On where?
On True Radio.
I think that's TV radio.
No, it's T
Radio V. T Radio V on radio
.com.
and TV.
TRadioV.com, I think, is what they want.
Tune in.
Radio and TV on the internet. Concept.
It's the bit.
Excellent. Party time.
I'm Ty Simpkins.
Miss Danielle Basutti.
Hi, this is Brooke Peoples.
I'm Jocelyn Donahue.
Hi, I'm Keegan Allen, and you're watching
T Radio V. T Radio V.
T Radio V, radio in TV. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
T Radio V. Yo!
T Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV. T Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
We're back at Absolutely Jason Stewart with my guest, Bruce Vilanch. I'm just trying to think of all the things you are: actor, comedian, writer, Emmy winner. We're having a very, lively discussion about television and people and ratings and all that.
About dead people in television.
Yeah. Well, speaking of dead people, Paul Lynde.
Yes, still dead.
You wrote his special, did you know?
I did. I wrote a few specials, but the one that lives is the Paul Lynde Halloween special.
Yeah, I just saw that online recently.
People are watching it like
mad. The gayest
this
special
week.
ever is what I hear.
Thank you. I'll take that. I'm happy to be a part. And it was. We didn't know at the time, but because we didn't think that way.
I know. Isn't it weird though that it's so?
It was loaded up with gay people. It was loaded up with gay people as performers and behind the scenes. Although it was a mix of people who did variety shows. Maybe variety shows were just
I think are very
intrinsically gay.
Definitely.
But the idea of it was so ridiculous. I mean, he had a family of witches, and one of them was Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West, and Billy Hayes, Witchy Pooh, and he was like their errant brother. And there was I have to look at it again and remember what the plot actually was. But there was room for Tim Conway and Florence Henderson and Roz Kelly, who was Pinky Tuscadero on Happy Days.
Oh, right, very big.
And Kiss, their first television appearance.
Oh, my God.
That was a riot. It was a riot doing it, and I should give it a look.
You know what show that I thought was great that I thought that was just in the wrong time in the wrong place, which people have done, so it was Paula Poundstone's show. Paula Poundstone's show is like so current now, whereas at the time no one was doing a show like that.
Yeah, I know. The one that we did for HBO?
No, for ABC.
Oh, the ABC. But how many episodes did she do?
Two, and one of them didn't even air on this coast because there was something happened.
Right. Yeah.
It was crazy.
Right, yeah,
it was
that.
one of the. You worked on that, did you not? Or
I didn't work on that.
I worked on
HBO
special.
I didn't. We did 4 HBO late night specials that were.
Okay.
I mean, they were basically Paula in the audience, and then a musical guest like Pat Benatar. I'm trying to think of who else we had on the show. And it was a much smaller scale than that. I mean, that was big.
I think she's
a
probably
big variety
so
show with balloons
gifted.
And confetti and
so gifted. I mean, she does
brilliant.
what I love.
Absolutely brilliant.
Just I mean, but you got to pick a sexual preference and stop wearing those ties. Other than that, I just love her. I just think if people don't know, in the day it was fun to be just sort of, oh, what is she?
Yeah.
And then you get older and it's like, oh, this is creepy. It's
well,
like,
or I think people say, oh, well, she's revealed herself long ago, and I'm fine with that. Or they kind of say, well, people are strange. Everybody has their own thing. And
I know, but that scares me. So I'd be remiss in not talking about Comic Relief because you really.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know or even remember. I actually went to the first Comic Relief.
Wow. Yeah.
They would use other young comedians to be the keeper of and I was the keeper of Bob Goldthwait.
Wow.
Who I later got to work with on the.
You had a chair and a whip.
Oh yeah, he was like crazy, and because of him, I got into People magazine. That they told me that I was driving him crazy, and he would, and I was just supposed to follow him around, and make sure he got to the places, and I was like mortified.
Well, that was a job.
Oh God, yeah, it was. and he I got to work with him on Mind of Mencia years later as a sketch player on one episode, and he said, all that was made up, right? I said, yeah, I did. Now I do, but when I was a kid, it was like, oh my God, I'm with. The guy from, I was scared. Exactly. What was that? Are there any cool stories? I mean, it's Billy Crystal, I hate saying it, the late Robin Williams. God, that's sort of, hard to even say.
I know. Because he was wonderful. He was the sweetest guy in the world, and he was suffering so much. It's just it's a surprise to me because it never happened when I was around him, and we had many great times. But I mean, I'm sure that it's very difficult to be that guy. It's very difficult to be such an all-encompassing personality. I mean, to turn that on and turn that off is kind of a chore. I mean, it's not like, you know, you have dinner with Rickles, and you talk to Rickles, and Rickles is a guy, is a person, and then the waiter comes to the table, and he becomes Rickles. You know,
still.
Yeah, what are you still making that corn chowder with your aunt in the back room with the butter? You know, it's that, and then
That's for the old
away.
people at home. It's Don Rickles. If you don't know who he is, I have to say one of my all-time favorite comedians of all time.
Oh,
you know, him and Toady Fields.
He's a great put-down comic, and so when Rickles turns it on, he just has to be mean. He doesn't even have to be funny. He'll just say something mean, and his delivery will make it funny, so he can turn it on and off. But with Robin, it was always, you know, okay, dance, be brilliant, you know, be spontaneous and pull it out of your ass. And
I think it's harder when you get older.
I think it's harder when you get older, and I have a feeling that the diagnosis probably had a lot to do with it.
The Parkinson's thing?
Yeah, I mean, I have no knowledge of this, but it would seem to me that if I were that kind of person and I was told I could no longer be that kind of person, that it would hit me like, you know, the proverbial ton of bricks.
Yeah.
It would be massive. I mean, it's.
I guess I tend to think that a lot of artists have these. We all have moments.
Yeah.
And it's whether you act on them. It's like one flip of the switch.
Well,
I think there's a lot of people that have had those days. You know, the song, remember Mama Says There's Going to Be Days Like This.
Yeah, right.
And there really is. And no one really prepares.
I mean, something is the trigger. There's no question about it. But this stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. It's long time. It's like all those school shootings where they say, hey, he was so nice, but, you know, lately there have been warning signs. Well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, maybe you should have noticed.
Yeah, maybe you should have noticed, and maybe you should have said, this is not, you know, a kid going through a phase. Maybe this is more. You know, it's easy to say now, but the truth of the matter is we all, you know, we look at people and we go, borderline.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a borderline personality, and attention must be paid. And
with him, it wasn't noticeable, I guess. He covered up all the tracks.
Well, I think, yeah.
Or maybe
I mean,
maybe not to the people that were closest to him.
It's hard to.
It's hard to say.
It's very hard to say. I mean, I mean.
What were some fun times though on the Comic Relief? You worked on a lot of them, am I correct?
I did. I think there were 12 of them, and I did most of them. And
Billy, which is because you work with Billy on almost everything.
Yeah. It was.
What's a story you haven't told?
Wow.
With Billy,
a Comic Relief story that I haven't.
Or
told.
even Oscars, either one. I mean,
there is no story I haven't
told.
And if there is, it'll be in the book.
Yes. Yeah.
My God.
And if you haven't seen the documentary on Bruce, even though it's a little old, I still think it's great.
1999.
But still, it's a great documentary. It's called Get Bruce. Mm-hmm. And you can
it's
get
entering
it
its teen years now
on Amazon. It's so
what's
wonderful.
amazing about it's a deconstruction of comedy. I mean, it's an interesting sort of document. I mean, for me, it's fascinating to see my various weight levels and hairstyles. And I recommend if anybody wants to make a documentary about you, do it, because you'll have that souvenir of what you looked and sounded like and dressed like. But aside from that, it's an interesting piece about comic stars and the people behind them. And a lot of the stuff is still funny. I mean, there are a couple of jokes that are really site-specific and don't have the kind. Although here's Monica Lewinsky back in the news.
Oh yeah.
So and there's a
fighting against bullies.
Right, and all of that is in there, and so it's still it's people who've not seen it. Look at it and go, wow, that's interesting.
So what's coming up next for you? Where can people see
what
you?
Is coming? Where can they see me? They can see me.
Your website is called Get Bruce?
We got Bruce.
We Got Bruce.
We Got Bruce from the movie Get Bruce. And
okay,
the sequel had Bruce, which will hopefully have a much larger cast.
I think so.
We Got Bruce is a fan site, actually, run by a guy in Nashville who just adores me. What can I say?
What's not to be adored?
I know. Where are you going to see me? As a writer, I worked on this thing on November 23rd. They gave the Mark Twain Prize to Jay Leno.
Oh, man.
At the Kennedy Center. So I wrote that, put it together. And
wow.
It's got Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and Chelsea Handler. And
Chelsea Handler, wow.
Chelsea, he created Chelsea Handler. I mean,
did not know that.
Did all these bits on his show, which nobody remembers, but Chelsea does. And she came on and did a whole thing about it. And Wanda Sykes was hysterical.
Oh, just the best.
And some young comics, Al Madrigal and DJ Smoob, JB Smoob.
Oh, he's not that young, but he's from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right. And who else is on it? Oh my God, I'm
so that's coming up. And if anybody wants to know anything about, go to
And the performing thing, I can't think of the next thing I'm doing.
But it's all on the site, and if you can't remember how to spell his name or anything, just go to jasonstuart.com, Stuart.
You'll always find me there.
And I will set you in the right direction.
Yay.
I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
My pleasure.
You're
fun.
You're just a groundbreaker to me, and I absolutely adore you. I actually didn't play any clips because I'm so interested in hearing you talk.
I know,
It's the
exactly.
first time I've never done this.
Really?
Yeah.
The first clip-free show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I
This is
adore
exciting.
you.
This is like his greatest clips.
Thank you so much.
No clipper.
Take care, everybody.
You are watching T Radio V, Radio and TV.